time for an Anglophone to be the next president of Cameroun. It's going to be the focus for our discussions this evening. Many voices are being raised on the need for the next president of Cameroun to be the head of state. We equally this day are going to be looking at the international community's reaction to atrocities committed in the northwest and southwest region. Many persons, especially Dr. Simon Munzu, is asking the question why they would condemn when there is an atrocity and go silent a week after without a follow-up to see into it that the exactions that are committed in these two regions are put to a definite end. Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to another edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We are going to be discussing on these two topics, which are panelists, three of whom are already in the studio with us. Atemebako Andrin is a Pan-Africanist par excellence. He's here with us. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu, again, and I want to thank all the viewers of My Media Prime watching this hour to stay tuned and see how we can make inputs to what is happening in our nation and in the continent of Africa. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Also with us this evening is Apostle Valentine Ambengwa, who is a political analyst. He is an opinion leader and also a man of God. We are glad to have you with us.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Thank you, televiewers of My Media Prime. Thank you, my co-panelists, and always an opportunity for us to sit here and deliberate very important issues that concerns our nation, Cameroon. Tonight, stay tuned to your screen because we are going to be educating you, and God bless you.
Also with us is Fa Elvis Tayon, who is a journalist, a political analyst, and a militant of the Cameroon Renaissance movement led by Professor Maurice Kamto. Good evening, Fa Elvis Tayon, all the way from Boya.
Good evening, Cum Leonard. Good evening to all the level-headed panelists who are here present in the studio. And good evening to His Royal Highness Font Dr. Fomuki Walters, the traditional ruler of Gunoko village. Good evening to all the Gunoko people in Bengui, and all the thousands of televiewers who are watching us right now. It's my pleasure, and I think that with our unmodest contributions, we'll help to shape the kangaroo system that has been a cankered worm on the eyes and on the legs of Cameroonians as we suffer day in, day out.
Okay, we are expecting the arrival of Prince Joel, who is a journalist, to complete the set for tonight. But we are going to start with you, Andrin. Do you think, Andrin, that it's time for an Anglophone to be president of this nation?
Well, it's not really a question of if it's the next president is going to be an Anglophone in Cameroon or a Francophone. I think that we should be able to look at the context very well into where Cameroon is heading to and where we are coming from as a people. Because at the end of the day, we want to see a leader who is going to liberate Cameroon and is going to stand for the the core purpose for why our forefathers build this nation with the spirit of liberty. So at the end of the day, we have to be able to look at leaders that are able to bring the kind of change that will fit the spirit of Cameroonians. I keep saying building Cameroon for Cameroonians and not looking at the context in which we have been we were given by the colonial regime in 1960 and 1961. So if we keep looking at the political arena under that context, I don't think that we are going anywhere, even if an Anglophone will take over power. Because we want to see a Cameroon where we no longer have a French, we no longer have Anglophones, but we have a people of the same origin. So these are the kind of leaders that we are expecting that Africa should be able to build and should be able to train. Not leaders that are tribalistic, not leaders that are one-sided by language, or not a system which is being divided. So we have to look into these things very well and know the kind of leaders that we want to lead our nation. So for me, as a Pan-Africanist, I think that even if an Anglophone should rule Cameroon, will still not bring the peace and the level of progress that the Cameroonians are seeking for today. you look at almost 80% of his population lives under abject poverty. So even if an Anglophone leader is going to take over the country, it is still not going to free the 80% of the people living below poverty line. So we want Pan-Africanists. We don't want, how will I put it, we don't want politicians who are compliant with the Western nation. We need Pan-African alternative that can free Africa from all this kind of neo-colonialism. So that is the kind of leader that I am looking forward to have in Cameroon and in many of the African continents. Okay, that is what I'll leave for now.
Many politicians, civil society activists are clamoring for the next president to be an Anglophone. For example, Limbi Lobe actually has said severally that he wants the next president of Cameroon to be an Anglophone. Somebody like Barrister Achu Julius, who is a militant of the CPDM, equally shares the same idea. Somebody like Padia Sang and a host of others, they say it's time for an Anglophone to take over. Apostle.
Yes, Mr. Leo, the idea of an Anglophone taking over, to me, actually supposed to be properly examined.
Okay.
Because when we talk about Anglophone, Anglophone has to do particularly with language. We should be talking about a Southern Cameroonian.
Okay.
Or a former West Cameroonian should be a president of this country. To me, the rancor in the atmosphere and the tension right now is not coming to solve only economic problems, but to solve an age-long rooted political crisis. So bringing an Anglophone now to the scene is to quell down the tension, or bringing a Southern Cameroonian to the scene is to quell down the already tension that we have. Now, talking about governance and leadership, we have to be able to know the kind of person amongst the Anglophone who can be able to manage the affairs of the country that is going to serve two purposes at a time. Solving the deep-rooted, long-age crisis of marginalization and handling the economic collapse, political inconveniences, as well as social and poor cultural reforms. So I think when we are talking about leadership, we should be able to look at people who have been able to take something from nothing to something. In our present-day society, people who become politicians or leaders in Africa are people who speak good grammar. But if you look at it critically, in most European countries are people who have been able to accomplish a feat. They have been able to take something like a business, an organization, an NGO, or an agricultural plantation. They raise it from nothing to something. They have practical testimonies on ground. Leadership is not speaking good grammar. It's the ability to take nothing and make it something. So when we talk about a former British Southern a former West Cameroonian or a Southern Cameroonian becoming the president right now, to me, I buy the idea. But the idea of Anglophone is a bit complicated because there are people from Bamileke who have lived in that.
In this context, I want us to define it. The context would mean somebody who has Northwest and Southwest as
origin.
Yes, that is the context on which we are talking.
That's what we are trying to talk. So if we are talking about an Anglophone in the context of somebody that hails from the Northwest or the Southwest becoming president, it is not just enough to be an Anglophone or somebody from North and Southwest. We need somebody that is going to not only solve the political crisis that we have on ground, because the economy is facing a lot of challenges right now. It has an economic deprivation, it has social mismanagement, it has economic crisis as well as a political crisis. Now, Anglophone coming to the picture already handles the political crisis to a greater extent, at least 70%, because the Anglophone marginalization mentality will be somehow reduced to a certain extent because they will not feel rejected or abandoned or kept aside. That one is handled. In the political domain or the economic domain or social or cultural domain, the person also must have an ability to turn the economy and to make it become better. The truth is this: in most African countries right now, it has nothing to do majority. Like I said the last time Ouattara comes from the minority north. You go to Burundi, Evariste Ndayishimiye comes from the minority Hutu clan. You go to Rwanda, Kagame comes from the Tutsi, which is a minority. And you go to Ethiopia, this man, Abiy Ahmed, comes from the Roma clan, which is a minority. So the issue is not the minority you come from or the majority.
In Iraq, Saddam Hussein came from a minority. Yeah.
Now, the issue is who has the capacity to take the country from where it is to where it's supposed to be. Because if you look at it critically, Paul Kagame came from the minority data. He has caused a shift in the country. This guy also who came won the Nobel Peace Prize after 18 months. Abiy Ahmed in Ethiopia,
yeah.
He took it again to another dimension. So we are looking for somebody in the Anglophone sector that has the capacity to give economic, social, political, as well as other reforms that will cause the country to have a boom. We need a leader. That's what we need right now.
Okay, we need a leader. Do you share that fire, Mr. Young? You buy into that?
It is true we need a leader. Oh, yes. And that's why CRM has been clamoring for a change of the kangaroo system that must change whether it likes it or not. So, the issue now is when you analyze it in an analytical, political manner, we begin to ask the question, under what dispensation do we need a leader? I said sometimes on this platform that if you take His Lordship Cardinal Tumi and you place as the president of this country, he will not deliver the goods. Because the kangaroo system has been carefully carved out in a way that you function with a system put in place, with quack laws put in place that favors only a one-man show. How does it move? I cue in now with what the Pan-Africanist is saying. You need, if you want to put a leader, say an Anglophone as per se, to be leader in Cameroon, and you don't put in place a good governance system, separation of power, total economic independence, cessation from the lineage on the French for survival, and all loans from IMF, World Bank, you will still waste your time, because before World Bank gives you money, conditions are put on the table, both officially and unofficially. Before whatever bank is giving you money, they give you with conditions. And so these are the conditions that make African countries to remain poor. If China wants to give you loan, China will give you loans with condition. That's why you see the issue in Tanzania and their airport going away in the hands of Chinese, controlling with Chinese generals and armies at the forefront in a foreign land, functioning as if they're in China. In Zambia rather. So if you look at it carefully, what I'm saying here is that the issue of needing a new president, everybody wants it. Why am I saying so? It is abnormal. Cameroon, since independence, is talking about 2 presidents. Why Nigeria should be talking about more than 5, 6 presidents? Why Ghana is talking about 4 and 5 presidents and above? It means that the system looks like it has been carefully carved to keep one man till that do us part. It is a call for concern. New president, yes. But under what dispensation? Yeah,
are you saying that an Anglophone should not necessarily be president?
Listen, Mr. Leo, if you take an Anglophone and put him president in the present quagmire system, it's a waste of time.
No, but it's a new president. Will he not also put in place a policy?
That is why us who do political analysis, we say that the issue of clamoring for a new president does not suffice there. What are the mechanisms put in place? France can decide to handpick Prince Joanna as the next president. And the president we're talking here and blowing grammar.
What are you saying?
Can go there. What are you saying?
Are you saying that Professor Maurice Kamto should not want to be president because of the system of the what you are saying?
Our party, for example, listen to what I'm saying, Mr. Liu. We clamor for a change, but we are clamoring for something to be put in place in terms of dispositions. If, as I said earlier, if you take the best person today, put him as a new leader now, because the system has carefully been worked out. That is why you have assassinations and coup d'etats. Why? Because some presidents are put in place in a system that has been formatted, and in their attempt to adjust the system, they remove them out because they did not bring them to change the system.
Very briefly, you come in?
It takes a new leader to make a change. They cannot make a change before a new leader comes in. The coup d'etat that are taking place in Africa, the ones that brought the president alone down without his cabal was not effective. Look at what is happening in Zimbabwe. Mugabe was kicked out. Nangwangwa are all proteges of Zimbabwe. That's why the system has not changed. You go down to a country like Mali right now. The president was brought down with his cabal. That's a successful coup d'etat. The coup d'etat that takes away the head and leaves his proteges in power is a serious problem. So we need leadership that will come to dismantle the existing cabal. If a president comes, he doesn't come with a committee. He comes first alone, then takes his time to pull down. So we need a change in leadership, and then now the leadership activities can change.
Okay, Prince Joel Bukage is here with us already. Good evening and welcome. And your take, do you think it's time for Cameroon to also experience an Anglophone leadership?
Yeah, good evening to you, Mr. Leo. Good evening to the refined panel that you chose today. It's always a privilege being with persons like this. Special good evening to all those watching my media Prime and Prime R now. I think that Cameroon needs a change, irrespective of who is taking it, and specifically an Anglophone. Why? Because if you look at what is ongoing, one of the reasons why tension is in Cameroon, either in the northwest and southwest or other parts of Cameroon, the truth is that Cameroonians feel that one person has occupied that position for a very long time. 37 years is too much time, and it is time that somebody should test it. And somebody here, I think, an Anglophone should also sit there, because there is no concours that one writes to become a president. There is no examination that you need to write to head Cameroon. And if a president of English expression sits at the Unity Palace, Mr. Leo, I believe strongly that it is going to reduce the tension that is ongoing in the Northwest and the Southwest region. First of all, because Anglophones are going to identify with their own brother. Let us be honest, because it is true that the major bone of contention in the Anglophone crisis may not be leadership. When you look at it well, in some of the arguments that the Englishman is raising, marginalization depends on the person who is heading. If the person who was actually heading the people well, the people will not complain of marginalization. If you also look at it, there's also this aspect of the legal aspect, Mr. Liu. If the president of Cameroon, for instance, if the next president is an Englishman, it is very obvious that he is going to give, how do I put it, a preferential treatment to the common law system that as of now needed the blood of so many Cameroonians before it could be added at Enam. So when you look at it, you want to feel that if a new breed of English expression gets into the Unity Palace, it is going to quell the tension that is going on now in Cameroon, because like Reverend was saying, I want to type very much within, anybody who is new is new. If you take Animal Farm, for instance, in George Orwell, you discover that the animals did not have a problem with the Mr. Jones. It was not actually Jones who was the problem, but they felt that they should identify with somebody who has the same skin with them. And that is how now all majors said, okay, if it is an animal that needs you, then you have no problem in Animal Farm. You keep suffering in Animal Farm because it is man who does not move like you, who doesn't understand your language. But now, if an Englishman is at the Unity Palace, Mr. Leo, let us be honest, take it, oh wow, it is going to reduce the tension. It is going also to give Anglophones that sense of belonging. Remember that the Englishman in Cameroon feels very rejected. The Englishman has not very much been identified within the important aspects of the political scene in Cameroon. Because if you look at the president of the Senate, the National Assembly, that of the Economic Council, are all French speaking. Now the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gute, comes as field personality, which means if you look at it at the level of protocol, the only person who is top of English expression comes field. So if an Englishman sits at the Unity Palace, it is going to give the Englishman that sense that no, the choice you made wasn't a wrong one.
Okay. Now, there is this whole concept of the Anglophone culture and dream. Don't you think that an Anglophone would also bring into Cameroon, if he were to be made president of the Republic, this culture of the Anglo-Saxon culture? We're talking about discipline, we are talking about respect for institutions, we're talking about other very core issues that would move the nation towards a definite positive direction.
Mr. Liu, what we need in Africa as well as in Cameroon, we don't need new colonial alternances.
Okay.
What we need but a Pan-African alternatives. You see, when we
are you saying that an Anglophone would not be a Pan-Africanist?
You see, these are some of the things that we have to redefine, Mr. Liu. Because for me, I think that at the end of the day, we are still playing with our words, and we still do not. I would say that the Cameroonians or the leaders are not yet ready for the kind of change that Africa or Cameroon deserves. Because the kind of change that I am looking at is a one whereby, if, for example, even if an Anglophone is made to be a head of state today, I have seen in constitutions and democratic administration where whoever is going to be the next is already designed by who controls the system. So even if an Anglophone takes over power, the question is, how does it serve the nation? It's not an issue of giving a balance of marginalization or of the Anglophone. That is not the point. We are not playing here with politics. We want a constant change, a change that can give us sovereignty. So what I am saying here is, if we cannot still look at the foundation of where we are coming from, then we are going nowhere. Because if we still talk of who is going to be the next president, is it an Anglophone or is it a Francophone, or is it from the Northwest or is it from the Southwest? I ask myself that in which context or which country are we even referring to? A country which does not have its own currency, which its own economic, how will I put it, a sector has been deprived and has been stripped away from its own people. So at the end of the day, for me, I think that, Mr. Liu, what Cameroon needs is a leader that is going to change this colonial system and democratic system that is destabilizing our communities and our nation. Because if you look at the setup, for example, in the 60s, the Americans put 100 billion US dollar, and they gave conditions to the African countries on how their democratic constitution are supposed to look like. In 2000 and after 2010, 2018, China was putting 60 billion on the table without any conditions to develop Africa. So you come to realize that at the end of the day, we are looking at leaders that can bring Africa to a state of liberty, to a liberated Africa, whereby the citizens themselves will not find need to have all these divisions of being an Anglophone or being a Francophone. Now, even going way back to looking at this thing from the history, for example, Mr. Liu, if I ask that who is an Anglophone, you will not say that it's somebody from the Northwest. If I ask that who is a Francophone, you will not say that it's somebody from the
I've already defined the context.
I understand very well.
Yes.
I understand the context in which you have defined it. That is why I am saying that in that context, we are going nowhere, Mr. Liu.
Okay.
Yes, we have.
It doesn't matter. It
doesn't matter whether it's a French. I have seen the leaders we have there, they're not black people, but they are black in color and white in mentality. They are serving the purpose not for the common people. They are not serving the purpose for the development of their own nation. So it doesn't mean even if an Anglophone, if the Prime Minister is not an Anglophone, to what effect? To what effect has that been to the Anglophone people? So at the end of the day, even if an Anglophone man is put there, knowing the giants that are behind, we know that the Anglophone is not going to speak on the behalf of the Anglophone people. We saw that with Barack Obama. We knew that Barack Obama, being a black man, was going to stand for Africa. But that was the man they used in enforcing homosexuality on the African democratic government. So at the end of the day, we have understood these strategies of the Western nation, that each time there is a resistance, they will take one of us and put in front in order to lure the other people behind.
Okay, some persons think that placing an Anglophone as president, or making an Anglophone the next president of the Republic, especially somebody like Elimbilobe, thinks that it is going to be just doing justice to Cameroon's political evolution, knowing fully well that, okay, two persons came together, and I was agreed that, okay, when you are, this person is president, the other one is vice, and that position is supposed to be moving on. But conversely, what we have observed in Cameroon is that the first president is Francophone, second president is Francophone, and seemingly the third person may still come from. Yes.
Mr. Liu, I want to answer this question by beginning to establish the fact that a continent cannot change immediately. It takes sectors of each company, each part of the continent to change. For instance, Tanzania right now is a middle-income economy because John Pombe Magufuli came to power. The same with Rwanda. Rwanda has been graded a middle-income economy because Paul Kagame came to power. Cameroon as well also can change because somebody comes to power. Remember, the destiny of every nation is tied to the leadership. And once a man is given the office of a president, is one that decides to set up a cabinet. It doesn't mean that because an existing cabinet is in place, when a new president comes, he has to maintain that cabinet. There is no law to that. That's the first we have to understand. Secondly, we should supposed to be asking from what angle or what source should this president come from. We are going to deny the fact that anybody in the existing regime right now who is an Anglophone is not competent for this debate. Because they are already corrupted, because they have drunk from the cup of the corrupted system. So they are not competent. Combine all the parliamentarians, senators, ministers who are Anglophones, none of them are fit for this debate. We have to look for somebody with a complete neutral mentality, who does not have the system already in place at heart, who is not operating by the whims and caprices of the already established system. We have to come with somebody who is totally neutral. We have educated English Southern Cameroonians who have accomplished great strides both within and without this country. We can look up to them. There's a time when people choose to choose their king. They decide to make their king. We as Anglophones are not dull enough. If people argue the fact that an Anglophone is not supposed to be a president, then I want to believe that we are telling ourselves that nobody among us is competent to change things in this country. And that is an abuse to the image of the Anglophones. To me, I consider that. Secondly, if Francophones are strong enough and bold enough to sit in power for 37 years, and we are saying that whether who comes to power does not matter, is an abuse and a total disgrace to the Anglophone community. I believe there are competent Anglophones who have the capacity to take this country and do something far more better than what the existing regime is doing right now. So the idea of that we don't need to know where the person comes from is telling us that we are looking at the entire Anglophone community as if we don't have someone that can handle activities. I have said here we have a marginalization problem. We have a long-rooted political crisis. That is what has sparked off the present-day challenge we have in this country. Giving Anglophones the opportunity to run this country is like trying to compensate them for the years of marginalization. That one alone, it might not wipe out the tension completely, but it may solve the tension at least 60 to 75%. That is how we solve problem. We don't solve problem at a blow. Once the man takes power right now, it may be that his feats that we accomplished in power can even give Francophones the mentality that they are not competent to run this nation. You may come to realize even the Francophones may start pointing the fact that we have run this nation for almost our 60 years. We've not seen any tangible change. It is time for us to give Anglophones to run and see what they can do. That will also be a challenge to us to tell the Francophones that there is a possibility that the fact that we are a minority does not mean that we are a minority mentally. We are small in number. We are not small in capacity, in mind. So we can handle the affairs of this nation. Let them give us the opportunity to try. The prodigal son told the father, I am tired of staying on their roof. Give me, let me go and fail. When I fail, I will come back to submit. At least a try was given to him. When he came back home, the father decided to put the kingdom in his hand, because why? A man who has failed has the capacity to control failure. A man who has never failed cannot handle pressure. So I want to tell Anglophones to understand that this is a time for an Anglophone to take up the baton of leadership in this country. Let us prove our own leadership capacity, that we don't only end fighting the bushes, we can be able to manage the economic, the cultural, the social, the political states of this country. So I think Elimi Lobe is trying to communicate something that has to do with the psychology of the Anglophones. A lot of people are battered psychologically with the fact that we seem to be minimized, rejected, and disdained.
Okay, good evening to you, Gilbert Mwanze, who is watching. Malcolm X K, good evening to you, Ali, Michael, Anita Eno, Soma, Gil, all watching via social media. We say special greetings to you all watching us across the nation of Cameroon and the continent of Africa. Now, for Elvis Tayon, when you look at the political constructs of both the ruling party and the opposition, you are a militant of the CRM. Are there dispositions? Are there clear lines that indicate to the fact, or either suggest that there is a possibility to allow an Anglophone to take the lead?
Now, let me get to the issue straight away.
Yeah.
First, there are no indications as of now. Then, point number two, just like what Apostle just said, my point of view here is not that I don't want an Anglophone to be. I am working in line with political analysis, and I don't want us to deceive ourselves. Now, Mr. Leo, let me talk a little bit about international politics and international relations. That's the dirty side of the political part of it. Now, some of us don't understand that for you, as I said, I gave an anecdote here. If you take Cardinal Tumi and you put him in a 2D under the present dispensation, he will not deliver any good.
Yeah, but Apostle says that it needs a president to change it.
Now, let me
the dynamics. Yeah,
I talked about international relations and international politics. Why will it not work? Let me come straight clear to it. Mechanisms have been put in place to ensure that those things do not materialize until the correction is done. Why am I saying so? If you follow the functioning mechanism and the hidden agenda of the World Bank and the IMF, especially to developing countries, you will understand the parameters of what I'm talking about. That you are in Zimbabwe, whites owned more than half of the land before Mugabe came and was fighting. And at the time that they are owning these farms, none of the transformation industries are in Zimbabwe, which means that there is an agreement with the foreign country, so to say, in complicity with the whites who own the land, that produces things like those kids so that we ship them abroad and determine the prices. It's a whole system I'm talking about. Now, we talk about, you have been talking about CDC, and you think that there's a president who can come and say, no, CDC Barada does not go out again. Now we are transforming. What I'm saying is that it will not be biscuit as usual as we think, because the moment you fit into that shoes, without the dismantling of that network, I assure you, Mr. Leo, you will not spend 2 days in that office, because those that have this cacophony mechanism, as like Mr. Adrik was talking about, a colonial mentality, they have all it takes. That is the more reason why I said it's abnormal that you have African Union, yet when they go to monetary elections, their funding comes from the European Union, which means they are unable to raise money to fund to carry the activities. It is a carefully calculated mechanism.
You?
Now, cue him.
Yes. Are you saying that if you are given the opportunity to be president of the republic, you will not accept because of the existing system, or you will not change things?
This is what I'm saying. It looks like we did not get ourselves here. I said the issue of an Anglophone being a president is not a problem for anybody. Anybody wants change. If somebody sits on this platform and tells he does not want change, it means it's a lie. But my problem here is under what parameter? Mr. Leo, if you want me to be president now, and you don't define my presidency, Fire Elvis will not take.
Who is supposed to define for you? Who is supposed to define? Are you not the one who goes to power through a political manifesto? Yeah. There
are mechanisms in the African context, especially in French-speaking African countries, that determines who is president next. I am surprised we live as if we are not Cameroonians. Before any election comes in place, in the French-speaking African country, the president has been designed. I'm sorry to say that. Before it comes. Now, changing is not the issue as we think could happen overnight. Because to change it, there are many parameters that must work on it. That's why I said that the issues
I really want our televiewers to understand. You say except the parameters are changed.
Except?
Yes. How? Who is supposed to change them?
Now, to change the parameters in the first place, it simply means that there should be an entire education of the system, if not half of the system. It boils back to what we call the Pan-Africanism. Because if you don't put in place this mechanism, and to put it, what does it take? The next question you should be asking is, you should be able to educate the people you want to govern, not to expect so much. Mr. Leo, if you take over presidency now in Cameroon, within the next 2-3 years, people will tell you to go. Why? Over expectation. People will not understand that when you take over, Cameroon has loaned until we are at minus level of loaning. Which means when you take over now, it's education I'm talking about.
Your national president wants to take over.
It's education I'm talking about. What about Anglophones here?
Your national president wants to take over.
He wants to take over. That's why we are seeing
that.
Parameters is it? Other parameters that we are educating Cameroonians. Mr. Leo, what are we doing? We have educated Cameroonians that electoral system must be changed. I don't think we are doing bad in it. If you take somebody and put now, without educating that, please, these things need to be changed. The next thing is that they will over-expect on you. And when they expect on you and you don't deliver the goods, you will instantly become a problem to them. That's why I said, Mr. Leo, for any change to take place in the country, all of us want change. But the first thing is, you must be able to enlighten the people. So they don't expect much from you, and they understand how you will take long to arrive at, because anybody taking over Cameroon now, even any president taking over Cameroon now, will still have a lot to do.
Including
my president. That's the reality. Because a lot of damage has been done. And so if you don't educate the people to be aware that the change will come, but they should not over-expect, you will instead put them in danger because they will expect more, and they don't see within the shortest possible time, it will become a problem.
When you look across, because you look across the political class of Anglophones in Cameroon, do you see them positioning themselves or showing signs of wanting to govern this nation?
Yes, Mr. Leo, some of us who used to talk with certain persons, it is rumored, that is why your topic of today, I want to believe we are working in line with the information, is rumored that even Yaoundé itself is preparing and knows that no, it's time for somebody of English expression to step into the game. And there are names that I cannot cite, but there are names that are maybe coming up already. And Anglophones themselves know that it's time for them to take over the mantle of command. I want to, like I said, I still want to tie with Reverend and differ with my brother Teofa Elvis. the issue is not debt. We know very well that all countries that had France as a colonial master always have this neo-colonialism system. France will always be behind them. That we know very well. But the issue is, when you look at what is ongoing in Cameroon, let us be honest, my brother. When you look at the names of the colonials, I was discussing with somebody and he told me, he said, look at those in uniform who die in the northwest and the southwest. They are the Mfos, the Shays, the Tangiris, the Tantos. Okay? The Atanganas are not there. There are some in big offices in Yaoundé. We feel that we are not saying that if an Englishman takes over power, he is going to repeat what the Frenchman is doing. But we just want to feel that let it be a kind of a balance. Let it be a situation whereby let an Englishman to sit in that office. Let us see it, because if an Englishman doesn't sit there, it's as if we are not educated. It's as if we lack managerial skills. It's as if we are not competent enough. But if an Englishman sits in Yaoundé, Mr. Leo, let us be honest, things are going to change a lot. We have had a president for 37 years who has never addressed the nation in English. Never. But we want to feel that just the fact that if an Englishman to sit there, there is going to be this sense of belonging. Because as of now, the Englishman feels that his position is not here. The Englishman, when you go to Yaoundé and you enter one ministry, at least you agree with me, when you enter ministries, at times if you cannot speak, you find people speaking their dialect. It's as though it were a kind of a family property in a minister's office. And we feel that if an Englishman to step into the shoes, why not? Let us give an Englishman a try. Because if an Englishman doesn't step in, like I said, it's like we feel that we are not man enough. We feel that we are not strong enough. If we get into power, we will also take time to pay those bills or those debts. Because I remember when Biya took over power, he too said he inherited debt from the first president, Amadou Ahidjo. So the next president, too, even if we have debt, will continue from there. But as of now, I still reiterate and I take my stance, let an Englishman enter into the Unity Palace. Let it not be said. Because if you look at the way things are done, you will discover that in Cameroon, a majority of English-speaking Cameroonians go on retirement. But very few of French-English Cameroonians go on retirement. That's another aspect. You discover that the Frenchman is always a so Leo. The thing I'm saying, which I want to tell with Reverend, and I believe somebody out there is listening, is that let the Englishman. When we met in Fumbang, there were two things. That once the president is from French Cameroon, let the vice president, not what to is prime minister, let the vice be English expression. So if you cannot give, if you cannot give us vice president, at least 37 years is not 37 days. They took it from 1960, though we joined in 1961, and from 1961 to 1982, another person to 2020. It is high time we gave somebody a try. Paul Biya is not in Yaoundé, or Ahidjo did not manage everything that was in Cameroon because he was too powerful. No, let an Englishman to sit in Yaoundé. We know we have debts. We know that France and in fact, the Western powers control the whole of Africa. But let us give it a try. If France had before Biya was president, I'm sure France has had 5 presidents. Of course. France has had 5 presidents. Since Biya took over from 1985, France has had 5. My brother Tao will agree with me that even America has had changed. We cannot have a situation whereby, because I'm sure my brother will be speaking from the perspective that he's looking at the standpoint of his political party, that the president of his party. But if, Mr. Leo, if you go to Nigeria today and meet those who have run away from the northwest and the southwest are in Nigeria, and you tell them that Reverend Ambe is standing it as a potential presidential candidate, or he may be, or an Englishman, I promise you, Mr. Leo, the next minute all of them are back. But for the moment now, they feel that the terrain is not safe. How will the terrain be safe? Give an Englishman a try, irrespective of who is the person. Let an Englishman sit in the Unity Palace. Yeah,
but is this compounded or made more difficult because of the way politics is done in Cameroon? We are talking about regionalism of politics, where people from a particular group may want to stand only behind their son or daughter.
I think that Cameroonians are still village-minded mentality people who see only at the level of their tribes and their region. They don't look at the battle at the forefront. where decisions are made. And that is why it is not going to take us anywhere. You see, it's not the issue of an Anglophone or a Francophone. In the context of Pan-Africanism, that already shows a sign of failure. Because if you ask, in my view, who is an Anglophone, I will tell you it's a British. Is a British imperialism. If you ask me who is a Francophone, I will tell you that it is a French. It is not the people of this origin. And we have to understand this thing this way and know that in the 60s, as we still keep talking today, as I heard Apostle Ambe was talking, democracy in the context of African is like an organization giving to a certain protectorate to manage as an organization owned by the Western nation. Therefore means by no black man, whether an Anglophone or a Francophone, sits in that office can take decisions that will be in the favor of its people, because the next day they put you down. And that is what we have seen in Africa. So what I'm simply saying here is that we need to first decolonize ourselves. When we talk about neo-colonizing, what do we mean? We simply mean that the strategy of keeping a greater amount of its population in poverty and allow Western investors, those people who come in here, whether they are Chinese, whether they are Europeans, coming here to invest. That is not investment. That is what we call neo-colonialism, because what are they doing? They are distorting and stealing away our natural resources and back into their country. So, in my view, Mr. Liu, I will still say that it will take the quality of the population of each African member state to decide the kind of government that will see them through. It is not a man being put in Cameroon as a president in that office that is going to speak on the behalf of his people, when the constitution and the people surrounding that body or that organization is against the population. Therefore means that you come to realize that you begin to face contradictions whereby you cannot do what you want to do. You have gone in there with good faith. If today, even you, Apostle Ambe, you are made president in this country, I bet you would not do any change. There will be no effective change to do in this country. Because you cannot build on an old foundation that has been speaking against the people of this continent or the people of this nation. Therefore means that I am saying as a Pan-Africanist that we must review those foundations that we claim that we were given independence in 1960 or 1961, that today we are hearing Ambazonians and we are hearing the République de Cameroun. We were given organizations on the interest to protect for this Western nation, and that is why I said that we must be able to redefine what democracy.
How do we redefine it?
It is Apostle Ambe who said that. You said that in Afrique Media, that democracy is when the people have the government. Isn't it?
And dictatorship when the government.
Very well. So I come back to your statement. That is what you said. So I am saying that what you see, a clear example will be what we are seeing today in
Mali.
In Mali. Are you understanding me? That is pure democracy, and that is the way Africans are supposed to define what democracy is in their context, to choose their own system. But what do we saw the EU, we saw the AU, we saw the European Union, we saw the UN kicking against the constitution and making sure that the constitution should not be changed, because that constitution is working for their interests. So at the end of the day, what are the Cameroonians going to do? Believe you me, it will shock you, Mr. Liu, that even from history, from when Biya took over power till now, it will surprise many Cameroonians that if he were even an Anglophone, he wouldn't have even done half of what Biya has done to even start with. So at the end of the day, we are not looking. We cannot keep dividing ourselves. We cannot keep dividing ourselves.
Yes,
we must break away those differences.
Yes. So what are you saying in effect, that until we deconstruct what is happening today before we can dream of having an Anglophone president?
Mr. Liu, this country needs sovereignty.
Yes. How do we achieve that?
Get it?
This is how we can get it. If you look at the youth population today in Africa, as in the continent, we are talking of 80%, which means that the youth population has overgrown to an extent where it has the capability of making decisions that will change the future of each member state in Africa. That's what we are experiencing right now in Mali.
But does that exclude the fact that in that mechanism an Anglophone leads Cameroon?
You see, Mr. Liu, it is a language that is being used. At the end of the day, we are looking for what is going to benefit the Cameroonians, building a Cameroon for Cameroonians.
Okay.
That is what we should be focused on.
Now, how do we fix this? Because when we look at the numbers may not be in the favor of Anglophones. If we were to say that, okay, Anglophones vote an Anglophone president, and how do we fix it? Is it also an issue of the constitution to spell it clearly that if this term this term is an Anglophone, the next term it should move to a Francophone?
Mr. Leo, nobody can determine the direction of a car until you sit on the steering. What is people saying? They are speaking jazz. They are speaking magic. You cannot determine the direction of a car until you sit on the steering. You cannot stand by the road and determine the direction of a car. That's what they are saying here. How can you dismantle a system where you are not in power? The British had rule over Uganda until Idi Amin came to power. Idi Amin had the capacity to dismantle the British rule because he was in office. Mugabe came to power before dismantling the British rule in Zimbabwe. You don't tell me that you will stand and talk to a car that go to Kumba when you are not on the steering. This is what these guys are telling us. How do you dismantle a system when you are not on the steering? Is it not magic? And they are taking, one of the things that Atibaye said that destroys country is magic. India has 500 gods and they are not developed. These guys are taking us into magic. Colonialism and tribalism are the things that are killing us in Africa. Magic, tribalism, and colonialism. We sit in our mind, we think things, and we conclude. We don't take steps.
Voodoo.
It was a guy who smoked India hair and they gave him a farm to clear. He looked at the farm and he said, if you cut the farm so, you cut them again so, you don't finish. He cleared the farm in his mind, and that's what Africans are doing. They are making as if they have taken over dose of marijuana. How do you dismantle a system where you are not in office? I'm asking. Donald Trump has come to America. He is stopping abortion, and he's stopping because he's in office. Trump could not speak as a Republican to change things. Obama enforced homosexuality because he was in office. There are conflicting views, but they had to go into office. Nobody can change power until you enter office. The first thing is that they should enter into the office. They can dismantle the constitution technically. The truth is that when you build a strong administrative setup, that does not succumb. Because before you go to power, you must have that team. As you are entering with them. When the Minister of Defense, territorial administration, culture, everything they are for you, and the military is for you, there's no external power. So you must go like
what is happening in North Korea. But
listen, Mr. Leo, let me land, because the issue is the way Africans reason is going to take us 600 million years for Africa to be liberated. That's the simple truth. If I intend to, you don't go to power with all your intentions. I can play to be a servant. If you put me into the office, that's when you will know who I am.
True.
The person who is going to office must not show as if he is a rebel. Give me the chance to sit in office. When I enter, you will know who I am. That's the simple truth. I set my team at once. Once my team enter into the office, the way the Europeans have been manipulating the previous government, they cannot manipulate the new government. Individuals have entered into offices in Africa and changed things. Look at what happened recently about the COVID-19. Magufuli came to Tanzania. He refused to succumb to all the laws. That has to do with leadership. You don't tell me that we are going to dismantle the system. How do you change a constitution when you are not in power? How do you? Thomas Isidore Sankara Noe came to Burkina Faso and changed things for 4 years in 1987 because he was in office. Nobody, you tell me that you're going to dismantle or establish Pan-Africanism, through which means in the streets. Do you want to use a remote control a car to its destination? That is magic. Let us get into the office first and then call the shots there. That is what I'm talking here. The issue is this: most of the African leaders that came to power and changed this in their country did not come as people against the imperialists. They came as if they were working for the imperialists. Until they were given the opportunity to enter into office, that was when they proved that we are not going to submit to your system. Look at what happened in Burkina Faso. When they kicked out Thomas Sankara, Blaise Compaoré came to power. They manipulated him. The person who is in Kaboré is not succumbed to the French system. It's the same thing Gbagbo pretended as if he was a French stooge. When they gave him power, he blocked the support of Cocoa in France. That was when France wrote against him and he coupled to date. The people will begin to understand who have them at heart and who are their stooges. The issue is when stooges ruling for too long, you can never know real men. Let real men sometimes come to power, you'll be able to decipher between the two. That's the truth.
Yes, I have listened to the presentation, and the only bad thing we did not understand is that most of those who took those steps against the colonial powers were overthrown in the coup d'etat. I don't know if we understand that. most of those who took that in the interest of their people were overthrown. But Gbagbo himself were equally sent away. Even Idi Amin himself, Dada, was a coup d'etat came in and he was ousted on the colonial intentions and movement. See, these are things we need
After how many years?
The year does not matter. The colonialist only needs to calculate you. The government.
Finally, what am I getting from you and Andrew? Are we saying that Africans are doomed?
No, this is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, Mr. Leon,
yes,
in effect, failing to plan means planning to fail. I repeat, failing to plan means planning to fail. You cannot get on one night because you think that you want to be a leader when you refuse to understand the present system and it's the way it has been hooked up. For example, Mr. Leo, how do you take Cameroon out of the quagmire when you have not yet a mechanism to unseat your foreign reserves that are in Europe? How do you come in when you don't yet understand exactly that you have a system whereby the price of the things you are producing in your country will be determined by somebody? What am I saying? I said that the issue of change is not the issue as we are talking as if it is something you just get overnight and you can put things like a jam, it moves. If you put that, those who put that know the consequences and they were prepared for it. That's why you see when the coup d'etat came, it was not a strange thing for them. When some of them were killed under circumstances manned by people within their own government to kick against them and kill them, they did not. It was not surprising them because they knew that what they were taking was a risk that had to take away their lives. Now, what am I saying? We're in another dispensation. You cannot take what Idi Amin did. You cannot take what somebody did some decades ago and you apply now. The present dispensation requires that because of the hook system. What has the West done? The West understands that our problem is economic, which means we don't have what it takes to stand economically independent. And what do? They put in place intentional speed breaks. I repeat, intentional speed breaks to hold us down. What do we do? For us to get into that shoes, I keep on saying this, Mr. Leo, the main issue, if I look at what Andrew is saying and all the like, the main issue is we need first to take that period of educating ourselves on how to kick against when we get to the period of the speed break. If we just get that one, as I said, Mr. Leo, if you put somebody now, you put Apostle Ambe or myself as president now, without defining the system where we have to work.
Why are you talking about yourself? We have persons like Ayapol who have attempted being president, which means that he understands what it takes. We have persons like Kawala, Edith Kawala, we have persons like John Frunzi, we have Joshua Osi, we have Barrister Cameroun and a host of others. Why are you talking about, are you saying that they were not prepared, and for Franklin, yes, were they not prepared to take over power?
Mr. Leo, the issue I'm talking here is taking over power is not the issue. It looks like we are not getting it here. Nobody is against a new president coming into place. But what I'm saying is that the problem here is, will the new president deliver the goods under the present dispensation? That's where the question mark lies.
What dispensation?
The present dispensation of the cacophony that hooks up to the colonial powers.
Now, how was your national president going to deliver?
My national president was going to deliver first by fighting for the things that he has been mentioning to be put into place. In the course of doing that, I don't want to go into the other private things that are going on because that is a party issue.
What is the difference between what he is saying and what somebody like Kawala is saying?
The difference that lie on the ideology and the approach. The approaches and the ideologies are different. I don't know why you understand it. I know what I'm talking about. If you look at it, groundwork is being done. I don't want to tell you how the groundwork is done on our part or how Kawala does her groundwork. Everybody has a way of the approach they take. But I'm saying is that if you think, because I see we are all excited a new president. I am a political analyst. I am not excited on the issue of new. No, my question is, if new comes in, under what dispensation do we put in place?
So why did your national president want to take power? Were you not excited to see him at the presidency?
No, excuse Mr. Leo. I am not excited for my new president, my president to take over. The one thing I'm interested in is the guy he's putting in place.
No, but he calls himself president.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Mr. Leo. Whether he's president AU is not the issue. My issue here is that I am interested in the groundwork he's putting. Because he has understood that you cannot get the one morning and think that as you get into today, things will begin to happen. He's working on the ground as I speak now. And so that's what I'm saying, that on the ideology I'm putting in place here, Mr. Leo, my issue here is not the issue of new president. I said nobody will not sit here who will not want a new president. Because once there's a change, new things automatically come into place. No. But our own contribution as for myself is that the issue is that I don't want to be excited on the new president, and my issue is Under what parameters? So
if an opportunity were presented to your national president, would he not move to
Mr. Leo, you will not get one day and tell the president come and take what it takes without reviewing the mechanism under which you work. That's what he's currently working on the ground.
Yeah, but he says that if regional elections are called tomorrow, he's moving the population to ask President Paul Biya to do what? To take over.
Mr. Leo, there's a mechanism that's put in place, right? There's a mechanism.
Okay.
You want me to tell you what he's doing on the ground? I don't want to get into that.
Yeah,
okay. Any aspiring president, so to say, not so, who wants to take over power, who understand where he's going to and understand the system, fights on the ground and groundwork with different mechanisms to put in place a favorable step before you get into office.
Okay.
If not, you will not be different from the previous presidents.
Mr. Leo, I think that you took time to carve out the panel. That's why first of all I appreciated it. We have 2%, so you know, whether Pan-Africanism or whatever definition you give it, those names, it's just grammar. Because I want one mama who is watching and does not understand this big grammar to understand that the real thing is it's just change. Okay, what we want is change. We just feel that when one person
just change.
I'm coming there. But yeah, when one person stays at a particular position for a long time, it's not good. That's why Reverend said, and I always tell what he's saying, that you cannot drive a car from outside. We should say that one person has been at the helm of the power for long. He's French speaking, we have had to. And what we had at Fumban, you should tell me that one of the proposals given during the major national dialogue was that power should change hands. And if power should change hands, it should also go across the Mongo. Then if it goes there, it should not necessarily be an issue of deaths defined. Nigeria has been changing presidents. Are you saying that this thing, you know, the issue is
Nigerians are supposed to have
Cameroun. No. Mr. Leo, the thing is this is my point. This is my point. My point is, let a president of English expression, because a well-known devil is better than an angel you don't know. If an Englishman sits there and becomes even worse, because like I was bringing the example of Animal Farm, you discover that the animals suffer more under Napoleon, who was an animal, than in the hands of Mr. Jones. But let us be sincere. We have had so many Anglophones who have vied for the post of president. But at the end of the day, let us say they failed. But now, if one had succeeded and did not deliver the goods, we would have been having a different debate here. You cannot be talking about a sole proprietor type of business where you don't have partnership. Until you leave from one-man business and you do a business with two people before you start knowing that no, it is not only you. At times you need to work with two people. If an Englishman sits in Yaoundé, that's why on other media platforms I've always said it, that let the Englishman to give it a try. If you give him a try and then we see how the killings, the burnings and those things, because what is happening now is because the people don't feel identified. The people feel that they've been maltreated for a very long time. Englishmen in Cameroon, we know our best examples of past are those ones to be teachers. The big ones to be those big persons. It takes time. Mr. Tan will not tell me that it is Pan-Africanism that makes you to enter INAM. Let the Englishman to sit there. If an Englishman is there and he doesn't deliver the goods, let him first of all go there. As he's there, we shall now say, okay, somebody too is there, because from 1961 till today, it's a very long time. We cannot have one people from the same identity. Let us to take somebody who has the indirect role culture, because the people have had the two presidents have assimilation. It means their own mentality that the Frenchman carved them with. It's not the mentality that the English. Yes, they don't have the mentality of indirect role that we have. Keep an Englishman there and let the Englishman not deliver. But few English people have been in offices that have given a post of responsibilities. We have seen the goods are delivering. Let one sit there. And then if he doesn't deliver, then Mr. Leonard, maybe in another platform, we should now be comparing that, okay, you were saying that, the person has not. So we should have something to compare.
Let me just add before you go to, let them tell us the Pan-Africanists that came to Africa, how many are still alive?
No, the issue is not.
No,
whether
you
they
are
alive or not.
Pan-Africanist. Tell us your ancestors who are still alive, from coming Nkrumah to Kamarake Nyerere. All of them tell us whether they are still alive.
Alive is not the issue. The question is,
Now tell us what
were
they do.
they overthrown because they wanted to give? What happened to those who came and said they were
Let us see that first.
Andrew, I want us to tell our televiewers, you say you want the youth to come out and decide on the future of a country like Cameroon from a Pan-African spirit. How does that operate? Let's go practical.
You see, the problem we are facing as a people in this continent is that we don't get enough education.
Okay.
Because you realize that you only reap what you sow. If we are expecting a better Cameroon tomorrow or today, it will take in what we have invested in the minds of our youth, the culture and the mentality that we have been able to develop will expect us to hope for a better government. You see, that is the foundation of it. Now, I want to go to what Apostle Ambe says about you must be there before you can cause that change to happen. I like when he speaks like that because in other platforms he says it contrary to what he now says.
Okay.
In a case like in Mali, it was you who on Afrique Media told the population in Ivory Coast to go out and defend their rights. How were you expecting them to cause that change in Côte d'Ivoire? In Côte d'Ivoire, were you expecting them to go and sit there before they cause the change, or were you telling them to go on the street? So what am I saying here is I've heard you taking time to educate people on TV on how they should cause this change, but today you sit here and you want to talk how the change must come from there. Now, Mr. Leo, I want to say it this way: the democratic governments we have is already a system that was put in place before we started having administrators functioning in that offices as civil servants to the people who put that system there. And these systems are put with certain conditions which ties whoever becomes the leader of that administration. That is why today in Cameroon we don't own a currency, because we are not considered a people of sovereignty.
Yes, but how do we get sovereignty?
Now, that is why I say that Pan-Africanism is the only alternative that can bring Africa to a unified state or the United States of Africa.
No,
it is not a democratic system.
Therefore, now we are talking Cameroon.
Now it's the same whether we are talking Cameroon. That is, Cameroon is part of Africa. So I am saying here, Mr. Leo, that what I'm saying here, Mr. Leo, is that I don't believe in political or opposition parties, especially in the context of democracy. If you look at the perpetrators or the people who promote this democracy, don't practice democracy. We sit here in Cameroon, we sit in Africa, we don't understand what democracy is. Go into the Western nation, because you see them keep changing, having turnover of presidents. The system doesn't change. You are brought in, you already know what you are coming to.
But tell me how this change is supposed to be.
The change, Mr. Leo, that we need in Cameroon, I hear him talking of building programs for leadership, empowering the youth to become self-sufficient, financially empowered. Are you understanding me? We need time to educate our people to understand that the leadership of tomorrow is going to depend on them. Therefore means that they must take the interest. That is why when you talk about how many Pan-Africanism, I will tell you that those are signs. The few of them that we have had, it's a sign that God is telling us that it is time that we need to start train leaders and not believe in leaders.
No, what are you saying? That we take the next 20 years to train?
We don't need enough 20 years. We are living in the dispensation where knowledge is so much available, and the rapidity of
practically speaking, we take 6 months to train the young people, and then we.
Mr. Leo, I will say that if we can still take 5 to 10 years to get a Cameroon that will work for the citizens of this country and play in the global role of the AU and the African Union, I think that we should be patient enough. Okay. To prepare that period for one-time change. We are not here to play games. Yeah. We are not here for who should come in, come and mess it up, and then who next should come in.
Professor Maurice Kamto should wait for the next 10 years.
Mr. Leo, I will still say that Paul Biya has been there for over 38 years. And I cannot name some of the achievements he has been able to do. I don't know if you understand me. And you come to realize that he still, according to him, he still needs time to still achieve some other thing. So at the end of the day, I will still say that at the end of the day, Cameroonians need to look at the history of how their country was being formed in order to understand that it was not formed on the pretext that we favor its people. Therefore means that if the youth or if the people of Cameroon today want to choose the next leader, I keep saying that the 1960 constitution and 61 constitution must be reviewed. That is my position.
Is that not what I asked earlier on? Let's move over to Boya and get the contribution from Tiku Felix.
Good evening, Mr. Leo, and good evening to the entire panel. Kudos for the great and wonderful job that you are doing over there. Mr. Leo, what I want to say is there is a mafia that is going on. And this is deeply rooted in the fake and so-called modern definition of who an Anglophone is. It is now said that anybody who speaks English is an Anglophone. Mr. Leo, this is fake, and it is a tool that can still keep even Bia's cousin or anybody from the French-speaking side as president because he or she now speaks English. When you get to the University of Boya, you realize that we have more Francophones studying in the English language, and according to them, they'll become Anglophones by the time they finish their studies, since they'll be able to express themselves in English. The cultural aspect of who an Anglophone is, or what actually makes an Anglophone, is completely wiped out. So I would like this topic to be recoined, Mr. Leo, except you also buy to the idea or to the notion that anybody who speaks English is an Anglophone. So I would like us to recoin this topic to increasing voices for next president to be an indigene, or somebody who is of the Northwest or the Southwest, not somebody who came, not somebody who migrated and came settled in the Northwest and Southwest, raised children, and we call them Anglophones. No, we go to the roots. Mr. Liu, I don't think this is something that should even be debated upon, because for 50 years plus, all the Anglophones or the people from the Northwest and Southwest have faced is marginalization, and they have been crying foul ever since. Because of this, they've suffered lots of brutality, and because of their quest for equality and regional balance, they have been going through hell. Mr. Leo, we have so many of them who have been jailed. We have so many who have even gone on exile just because they cried foul for this marginalization and crying for equality or for the national cake to be equally shared. The Anglophones have always been used in this country, Mr. Leo, like they are on a rescue mission. Whenever a sector is failing and needs rescue, that is where they send an Anglophone. Mr. Leo, I want to say, if you look at it well, Cameroon is now in a situation where even the Francophones they know very well that they have failed, and they know that their own cannot give them what they actually want. When you look at it very well, the people of the Grand North, they believe the next president is coming from the Grand North. The people of the Littoral, they know that the next president should come from the Littoral. The people of the West, they know that the next president should come from the West. The people of the South, they want to conserve power. And because of this, there's this regional tussle that keeps the person from the Northwest and the Southwest out of the game. And if care is not taken, Mr. Leo, this is going to take Cameroon to another dimension of a conflict that we've never seen. Mr. Leo, I want to say, the records of leadership, good leadership, and transparency as a culture of the man from the Northwest and the Southwest puts him in that position of next presidency, not only becoming the next presidency, but becoming the rescue, the person that is going to be like a savior for this nation. And I think this is something that the Francophone should hail. It is not a topic for debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I knew very well that that was going to create a problem. That is why at the beginning of the program, I contextualize the meaning of an Anglophone there as persons with origins from the southwest and the northwest regions. But when we get what he's saying, talking about Tiku Felix from Boya, he says that given the context and the times, it is time for an Anglophone to come and play that savior role in Cameroon.
Mr. Leo, one of the things I want to address here is that he that has the constitution and the military is him that has power. The reason why most Africans have gone to the street in Africa and they have been cracked down is because the ammunition and the military is in the hand of those who are in power. We saw a case in Togo. A huge number of Togolese came to the streets. They were cracked down. We saw the case in Guinea-Conakry. A huge number of youths came out. They were cracked down. Cote d'Ivoire, the same thing has happened. A huge number came out to the streets. They were cracked down. That was because the power of the military and the constitution is in the hand of those who are in power. If we talk about youths going to the streets, many youths have gone into the streets in Africa on several occasions to save even their own country. They cannot. Talk less of youths going out to save a continent. It doesn't make any sense. Because first and foremost, most of the presidents are divided in their philosophy. They have differences in their way of operation. If you look at it critically in Africa, we are talking about youths. I said that the military in every nation is an external force, not an internal force. The people that keep public security are the police people, not the military. When a military begins to turn the gun against its own people, they have lost the sense of responsibility. That's the first we have to understand. Secondly, a military was trained to defend the state, not to defend an individual. The state is different from the government. It's our tax money that pay those military. If I pay you my money with tax, you shoot me with gun, you are in problem. The tax money of the citizens is what pays the military of the country. If the military is in the hand of the leader and the population goes into the streets, they will crack them down. MRC claimed to have won elections here in 2018. They went to the streets. We know where they landed. Because why? The military was against them. So when we are talking about youths going to the street, we should not push innocent youths to go and die for the interest of frustrated people. When we talk about this, they going to the streets should be properly organized, strategically set into place. We should not go and shout like all countries shouting now that we should go into the streets. Go into the street on war grounds. Underworld grounds. To go and die again, people have died enough. So when we are talking about going to the streets, youth going to the street, changing power, it is when the people have the control over the military. What has occurred in Mali, we are trying to claim and clap today. The military is on the side of the population. If the military was supposed to be against the population, you'd have had casualties in Mali. And one of the things you must understand is this. The military that has always conquered presidents in power are the ones who stand against the president. But when the military is for the president, it's difficult. The reason why Blaise Compaoré could kill Thomas Sankara because he was a military man that convinced the military to stand against Blaise Compaoré. This guy in 1999, Ibrahim Mainasara Barry, who is the president of was assassinated in Niger. Because why? The military connived against him. When the military is against you, your own has come to an end. Jovenel Abriyama of Rwanda was kicked out because the military was against him. Tekeri Bante in 1963 in Ethiopia was kicked out because the military was against him. Once the military is against you, you're in problem. So don't tell youths who are carrying sticks in their hands and stones to go and face now who carry grenades and bombs. And you tell the street youths are going to the street. They have been going to the street in many occasions. Where are they? See, when we talk about sending youths to the street, let's be very, very technical. I know how to defend my facts. I don't come on platform to entertain people. When we are going to the streets, the military was not sent to go and kill its people. When the Bible, the case of Kabila, when he took power from Kisangani to Lubumbashi, right down to Kinshasa, when they arrived at the presidency, it was a military presidential guard that joined Kabila to go and move out of power. If the military has stood against Kabila there, people would have died. So when we are talking about the youth going to the street, it's when the military themselves have joined the population. Not when you are talking when the military, the bombs, the guns are in the hands of the government, then a few youths of 100, 200, 300 go and die like fowl in the streets.
Now, my question to you was, I wanted you to react to what Felix said from...
I have been saying here that an Anglophone is good for presidential position because why? Psychologists say there are ways to solve problems. They are psychologists. They don't solve problems by giving you drugs.
They look at what you are going through. They are able to tell you what you are supposed to hear and direct you what to see to solve the problem. There are looks and there are words you hear solve problem. Psychologically, Anglophones feel marginalized and maltreated. If they are given the chance to sit in it, it automatically wipe out that mentality that they are not the inferior. There's a difference between minority and inferior. Inferior means you have no substance. Minority means you are small in number. We have substance even though we are small in number. So if we are given a chance, the idea of inferiority disappears. Number two, the idea of belonging also comes into place. Let us not be pretending. If you go to most strategic offices in Cameroon here, most of the poor are there and the poor are in power. SDO of Ako in Gambalidu. Now you are the man. Kumba, tell me, who be SDO?
Otto Shamalan.
Now say come on. Who is the governor of Southwest? Answer me. So if Bameka man become president, woman not be SDO.
It's very clear.
But man not become governor.
Very clean and clear.
Power balance. We stop this jackish politics on the platform.
Should not be power. What can you offer?
It's not a matter of offer. They have been offering. You see, I heard when you are trying to maintain justice on an unjust atmosphere. You are trying to practice justice where everywhere is injustice. Let me tell you straight, we are hungry that part because we want to favor our own. Let's not keep that. We want to favor our own. They have favored their own for many years. Right at the port of Diwala, we don't have any voice there. So we want to take power so that
yes,
a prime minister who is a stop. Let me talk my thing. A Francophone Parliament member 5, Senate President Anglophone, General Assembly Anglophone, so Senior Council Anglophone. We go vote. Our man will call results. Their man has been calling results. Their man is at the Senate. So don't tell me that it doesn't matter who. People are trying to make. You are trying to dolate this thing. Don't dolate it. Anglophone be president, Senate President Anglophone. General Assembly, Anglophone. Governor, Northwest, Anglophone. Governor, Center, Anglophone. Governor, Littoral, Anglophone. That's what we're talking here. It's not a plan. Now, do me and do you go no vex.
That's why France will even give you that chance. No one did. And Mr. Okay. Just 2 minutes, please. If you go, I've got an analysis. If people come out and the military is up and this and that, when you go to Egypt, Egypt has one of the most organized military under Hosni Mubarak. I say one of the most organized military in Africa under Hosni Mubarak, who had been dictator for long. But when the people went out at Tahrir Square, they tried to get the protesters away. It did not go. Most of them were youth. Over 85% of them were youth at the Tahrir Square.
The military did not shoot.
No, they tried. They
did not shoot.
They tried.
No, you are not the only one that knows that history.
I
said they did not shoot.
Military did not shoot. To topple.
Military did not shoot.
It is when the guy said they would take hostage at Tahrir Square for weeks, sleeping there. That's when military said the thing was serious.
They did not shoot.
At the initial stage,
in Malawi, military did not shoot.
I have the impression he does not know. Even in Malawi, people died. That people died in Malawi. When the National Assembly was burned, I'm surprised he does not even know. So what I'm saying at the end is that the issue here is that sometimes when people, I am not saying that I'm getting for disorder or violence as per se. What I'm saying is that when the people come out in their numbers sometimes, when the military discovers that even taking 1 or 2 is not changing the situation, the military even themselves can be forced to bow. It is a possibility. It's not like you say when the ministry is with it. I repeat again, holding Mubarak. Even in Sudan itself, before Omar al-Bashir was ousted, people had died. They are casualties. Unless you want to disprove me that there were no casualties. Before the military finally saw that from the military council that came in, there was no way they could do because the population was still insisting, and for weeks they were still going, even though some of them were shot at by the military, and the military was forced to bow. This is an issue to tell that the population can still, if they decide, to tell you that even if you have the military mind, if they come in their numbers, a normal army will not shoot 10,000 people on the street. It's an impossibility. Thank you.
Are you saying that you are not worried that the constitution does not provide that after a francophone and anglophone should take over this country?
The issue here is that we are not understanding something here. Because from the way I'm analyzing, I have the impression that the panelists here, even the presenter is not getting me. I have not said here that we don't want a change. All of us want a change. What I'm saying here is that while we want the change, I have not said I don't want an anglophone. I have said that the question is, if you pick an anglophone now to put in my A2G, as I get statements saying that this will be God, this will be governor, the question is, with the drums and the tambour that are played in the bushes, are you sure that anglophone will have what it takes to perform that duty he will not perform that duty.
Are you saying that if Akeremuna took over, are you saying that if Akeremuna, please excuse me, are you saying that if Akeremuna took over this country, he will not rule, he will not govern? If Kawala took over, he will not govern? Are you saying that Frunzi was pretending or playing some jokes to wanting to rule Cameroon?
It looks like you are still not getting me here. Governing is not a problem.
What is the problem?
My problem here is giving to what the people will expect at a point in time. Why?
Does Kanto has what it would take to deliver to the people?
Whether Kanto has or not, it's not the issue here, but talk about leadership. And my leadership point, I'm still insisting here, which you are refusing to get me, is that the change is necessary for anybody who is normal thinking as far as governance is concerned. My question is, we get excited here on platform on the issue of change without looking at the accompanying things that will enable that change. That's my issue.
Let us take some televiewers. This one is good evening to the panelists. I would like an Englishman to be a president. When he fails, then we can say he has failed us, but we can't judge without a trail. From Luke is writing from Yaoundé. He says Kamto should rally his children and go to the streets first. Okay.
Children are in Europe.
So how many leaders have run there?
Okay, please. Hello, Mr. Leo. My name is Nkwenti Evin from Kumba. I think it's time for an Anglophone to come and rule us, but you know the African sickness of presidential leadership. When they get into power, they turn against their people in order to remain in power. So will an Anglophone be different? Apostle Ambi, I really enjoy you. You speak with wisdom, okay? Hi, my big brothers. The issue of an Anglophone to be the next president might be a step towards the normalization of the many problems, because it will seem as an appeasement to what the Englishman has gone through for 50 years and counting. This is Beat writing from the United Arab Emirates. Please, Mr. Liu, tell Mr. Elvis and the Pan-African man that they should stop confusing the viewers. It's clear, even to the blind, that it's time for Anglophones to rule this nation. We are in a union as two people, so it's fair for us to say it's time for Anglophones. Let them also try and feel. That will make us satisfied. Daniel is writing from Boya. Hello, Mr. Leo. Good evening. I love your program. Keep it up. Mr. Leo, good evening. Kudos to you for the program. Please, Cameroon can be changed if the umbilical cord is cut from France. Okay. Ngupol Ngong says from Kumba says, hello, Mr. Leo. I'm Ngupol Ngong. Just to inform you that I now live in Akale Street, Kumba, not Church Street again. Greetings to you all in the house. I want to strongly agree that the next president should come from West Cameroon, now known as Southwest and Northwest regions. Hello, Mr. Liu. I like your program. Big salute to Apostle Ambi and the Prince. I'm Sharon John from Bomenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Congratulations to Apostle Ambi. That is a good leader. Cameroon will never go ahead with bad presidents, bad ministers, bad governors, mayors, and other government officials, especially. Okay. Good evening, good topic, good panel. There is a difference between an Anglophone and Southern Cameroonian. Davidson writing from Moyuka. Please stop the call. I can't take the call, madam. The Anglophone in this our context is a person who hails from the Northwest and Southwest. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Is Madame Odilia from Yaoundé. Please, I like the phrase just made by saying the first and second president of this country have been Francophones, and I think this should speak to every Cameroonian that since the Francophones have failed twice, then Anglophones should also have a chance. Mr. Liu, here again I speak. Please, do you know that an Anglophone owes the fourth position in the country? In fact, we are tired with the level of marginalization rates in the country. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and everyone in the studio, especially my favorite apostle. Just want to ask the panelists who said we should wait for even for 10 years to train a new leader. Is he aware about the killings? So killings will continue for 10 years. Let him leave Douala and go and live in Moyuka or Bamenda for the 10 years before you know. That time is now. Thanks. I'm Legan Basil, writing from Germany. Okay. You cannot depend on another race to free you. That is a basic law of human existence. Only Cameroonians can free themselves from bondage. Dinze is writing from Yaoundé. Stop the calls, please. Good evening, sir. I love this program. I'm Simon, writing from Douala. We Africans, not affiliated and subordinates of any superior power, Anglophones or Francophones, whatever, cannot build anything lasting in Cameroon, Africa, or the world. Divided we fall, united we build it. It all starts with Africans loving Africans. Africans have not learned to control power, but let power over them. It does not matter from where a president comes from. It takes the grace to lead. Plus, it would take more than one man to change what is happening in Cameroon and Africa. Change starts with you, with love. Bisong Lionel, writing. Hi, Mr. Liu. Apostle Ambi and Prince Joel are talking well. Mr. Fai used to talk well, but today he is talking with water in his mouth. It is time for an Englishman to be president of Cameroon. Christopher Ndwasak is writing from Tombel. I am seeing this now. So sorry, my phone had a challenge. Change must not only come from top to bottom. It could still start from bottom to top. The citizens can still play a vital role in altering the rule of the game and effect the changes needed. Let power be given back to the people. Okay, this is Apostle Collins Wilson writing from Limbe, I suppose. Mr. Liu, one person is lost amongst the panelists. He criticizes all panelists and say things for himself. Okay. Good evening, Leo. Let us, the Anglophone, embark on better things to help the country than the presidency. It's not possible. Okay. Good evening to all. We have neglected the spiritual aspects of this problem. When Europeans created secret courts and persuade Africans head of state to join, the net effect is that they will control us, tell us what to do, when to do it, and how to do it for their benefit. So we shouldn't expect African head of state who is an Illuminati member to work for the interests of Africa. Mondi is writing from Limbe. Okay, now how do we affect this? Because saying that is it time for an Anglophone to take power is one thing, but how do we engage in a scheme that gets an Anglophone to power?
First of all, it's very clear that to get to power, you either pass through a constitutional reform or the ballot box, like the case with President Paul Biya. He was not voted. Very few persons who know that Biya came to power in 1982, not through the ballot box, but just because the constitution said, okay, if the president is no longer there, the vice, or rather the prime minister, because by then was prime minister, the prime minister takes over power. We still want to feel that the same door through which Biya came in, another Anglophone could still come in through the same door. It means that a constitutional reform could come up to say, okay, in case the president is not there, let the highest authority of English expression step in. And the highest authority of English expression as of now is the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph John Gote. And another aspect to Mr. Liu will be through the ballot box. But now that one will be a very difficult one in Cameroon. In Cameroon, because it's a very difficult one through the ballot box. Why? I'm saying, I was listening to news today, and I was told that I got reports that Elections Cameroon says they have registered 15,000 more Cameroonians to add to those who had registered already. I say it's a laudable initiative. I thought that people still have voters apathy, but if people are seemingly getting interested into politics, it's a good one. But now the issue is, when these people go to the ballot box, does it actually reflect what they gave in? Because we know what is happening. That is why at one time, Mr. Ali, I'm not digressing from your question. At one time in 2018, there was somebody I saluted. That's the president of his party, Professor Maurice Kamto. But honestly speaking, progressively, I'm not beginning to like him. Because I don't see him being as consistent as he was. Because in 2018, you said that you know that Cameroon, there is electoral fraud. That irrespective of what goes on, nobody can win under the current dispensation. You go in for elections. Now you say the Northwest and the Southwest is one of the reasons you're not going. Before 2018, people have been dying since 2016. The next aspect now is calling people again to maybe take to the street. But I still think that it is like playing a wise one on Cameroonians, and I'm happy that seemingly Cameroonians are becoming very intelligent, and they are noticing that no, you cannot deceive all the people all the time. You can only deceive some people sometimes. So I think that, Mr. Leo, it is very clear that as of now, even the president himself, President Paul Biya, said it while in Paris, in front of Mo Ibrahim, that the Englishman is rising because of two reasons. He talks of the judicial system and he talked of the educational system. It means that he identifies that there is somebody who had an identity and a culture. Why not give that person a chance? There is nothing, like I was saying before, Mr. Leo, you don't compare a thing. What makes what Reverend is wearing white is because somebody can say this is black. If you have somebody who has been there for a long time, now we know that through the ballot box, it will be difficult, if not impossible. I don't want to use the word impossibility, but through the ballot box.
Are you saying that it should be inscribed in the constitution so
Correct.
that it is no longer an issue of the ballot box? We know that, okay, if after the 2 mandates of a Francophone,
Correct.
automatically whatever party wants to vie for presidential, all those representing the parties should be Anglophone.
That is what we are saying authoritatively, that the post of the vice president, we should not forget that one of the reasons that Jongo Foncha resigned from the CPDM, from the party, was because he felt that he was vice president of the party. And when he discovered that certain decisions he only listened through radio, I was like, how? So let the Englishman be concerned the way I usually used to keep them. Now, let there be a very clear definition, constitutional wise, that if you take for 2 mandates, like one person proposed during the major national dialogue of French expression, the name has skipped. I'm sure the Sultan, yes, the Sultan proposed that there should be change of power. When you take for 5 years,
okay, there should be a rotative.
That is as a Frenchman takes for now that he has taken it to 7 years. If you take, like he took from 2018 to 2025, it is already known by even one mommy selling paper that the next person to come is English expression. And now that if the person to takes from 2025 to 2032, we already know that even if what you're going to we already have in your mindset, so there should be this aspect of rotation, and let the Englishman know that he too belongs. Because like Reverend said, and I'm tying very strongly with him, there is this aspect, Mr. Leo, even me, Prince, that I'm sitting here, I am still to have this aspect of belonging.
Okay, you're still to have this aspect.
Yes.
Andrew, now, how do we get you still stand very, I'm sure you still holding on to your point that we need to train the next breed of politicians who are going to change the game, which means that when you look across the prism, the political class today, you are not too comfortable of those who are representing the people at the respective political levels. Can they not deliver? Can they not change this game that is cutting the umbilical cord with the West?
The game is being played inside of a field, which that field is like a confinement. That whoever plays in that field play by the rules of the game. That is what my friend journalist was trying to say there. It is that context where we are looking at, not the fact that an Anglophone cannot lead, but under what context.
Yes, but my question is, how do we get to a context where things are the way you want it to be, and then an Anglophone leading?
Yes, I will explain. I think that the very apostle who sits here and is very sensitive to the point where an Anglophone should be the next president. I have heard him on different platforms where he has given very good strategies on answering this question you have just asked right now. No, hold on, I'm coming. He said that if 10 million youths go out or population go out, there will be no army in any nation that will be able to crack them down.
Yeah, but
that we are talking now. That is for you ask a question and I'm going to answer you. The youth in Cameroon today makes more than 60%. Below the age of 25 years is the actual 60%. So the youth population of Cameroon is about 80%. What I'm saying here, Mr. Leo, is that he spoke about Ayijo, he spoke about Paul Biya. We should understand how Ayijo came into power. How did Ayijo come in? Because they saw that that was the only man who had worked in all the regions of those two countries. And so France thought that it was necessary to bring him in so that he can draw the English brothers to join them. Yeah. When they achieved that mission, they put him beside and now took a French president who knew nothing about the English speaking Cameroonians at that time. And that is why you hear that even the president, when he went to France, said that they wanted to assimilate the Anglophone.
How would you say he knew nothing when we know that even under Ayijo he headed a commission to handle the Anglophone crisis, to look into that? You mean President Paul Biya? He was the head of that commission under Ayijo.
Let me ask you a question here.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, we know in the Western world, language is culture. That is why in certain countries you cannot be given visa if you don't have the basic of that language, because that is where the culture is embedded. So he cannot head a campaign for the Anglophone when he himself does not speak English. Don't get this thing mixed here. We are looking at the strata of the colonial game played behind. So
okay,
what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, so I am saying here that Mr. Leo, that this was about 106 years ago where we were divided, whereby today we talk about Anglophones and today we talk about Francophone. And in that context now we seem to be killing ourselves. Are you understanding me? So I want my co-panelists to understand that the point here is not whether an Anglophone cannot deliver. Even a Francophone can deliver if you put him on the right platform.
No, my next question to you is: what is a guarantee that if youths were to take to the streets, they are going to cut the cord, the colonial cord with the West? What is the guarantee?
It is not the issue of the youths only going out to the street. The Cameroonians themselves must be able to understand what they want before they decide to take a step forward.
Yeah.
So if today we say that we want a free Cameroon, whereby it does not uses the currency owned by a different nation, whereby it pays taxes for using that currency, and where its own 85% of its natural reserves are being held by a colonial master. This is a context in which we are talking, Mr. Liu.
No, while waiting for that process, because what you are explaining is...
No, that is where we should be now, Mr. Liu. We are not, it's not be the fact that while waiting for that process, this is what we should be talking today, because in modern times, if people like us should come to
while we are talking, what stops an Anglophone from becoming president?
That is why I'm saying that I don't have a problem with that.
So
I am only saying that in the context in which he is going to govern, it is not a context that favors, it's a context that denies its own.
But
Mr. Leo, I'm going to answer you furthermore. Okay. In Africa, we don't have white head of states. They are all black head of states, isn't it? Why is it that they are not leading in the favor of their own people, but they are blacks? So the issue here is not being an Anglophone or the issue not being a Francophone. The issue is a system that has been put in place. Until we accept that our countries were sold before it was contracted to us in the form of democracy, that is a simple truth.
So
we cannot deny it.
Are you saying that the president of Ghana is not working in the interest of Ghanaians?
Ghana has reached a level where Cameroon is almost 200 years behind.
Okay.
Which is a simple truth.
Yes.
You cannot compare Ghana and Cameroon. You cannot compare Nigeria and Cameroon. You cannot compare Rwanda and Cameroon. What did the president of Rwanda say?
Were they not colonized?
Rwanda, they were colonized, but this was a statement that the Rwanda president said. He said that Rwanda today is not developed because it has good leadership. I want you to understand this thing very well, Mr.
But is it leadership?
He said that no, it's not. No, listen to me. No, hold on. He said it's not because he has a good leader. It's because the Rwandese themselves have decided to build their country. Good. And this comes back to the population. And that is why I'm trying to say that, you see, the context of democracy, in my view, has to be reviewed. If it was not reviewed in Rwanda, it will not be where it is today. And that is the same thing Cameroon should take.
Okay.
Population is not leadership. There are political statements that leaders make publicly, but what goes on ground is different. Kagame is a dictator par excellence. Kagame, you don't steal in the government. It's not a matter of who is a leader.
A minister of communication was sacked in Rwanda for stealing 1 million. Here we have ministers that leave 93 billion and coal is holding the notes in their rooms. The president is silent. Don't tell about leadership. Leadership has a head, and that head is one that carries out activities. Secondly, he says they used to go to the field, and they are 60% used. Under those, they are CPDM. They are CPDM. And their parents, under the youths of the Cameroonian government, that will not allow their children to go into the street. So what about youths going into the street? We have not come to a consensus to decide to oust the president like what happened in Sudan. The youths gathered, and the whole nation gathered, and the military also gathered to kick Omar el-Bashir out of power. The same thing with Peter Mutharika in Malawi when he rigged the elections. It was the children also that gathered. So we are talking about youths going to the field. Under the youths in Cameroon, how many are CPDM? How many are SDF who also don't want to go to the street? Because now like this, Ninche wants people to go to the street. Joshua will see with president. So there is a divide and rule system. Cameroon has a topography of a socio-cultural topography of 250 tribes. And those tribes are reasoning like octopus. Everyone has his own philosophy. Going this way, his own is going this way. So that's why you gather. We must have a common goal, a common dream for we gather.
That's what I said.
Cameroon has not come to that level where we can gather, because why? Within this nation, majority of the poor here are the ones who are siding with the government in place. You go to the north, a man like Marafa Amiria is being locked up. Most of them don't go to the street. That tells you something. It communicates something to you. There are other points in other countries. In Oni Ephraim is being locked up. Sarwesina don't go to the street. All their lands are being sold by DOs and governors. They are not going to the street. What is that communicating to you? Is to tell that a few elites in those communities have subdued the mouth of the youth from speaking. So when you say to go to, the issue is we just throw words in the air. We have to coordinate activities. It has to take time to be worked upon to bring people to the place of understanding that we can go to the street. I'll give you several instances. In the northwest, or you go to Manfi, people are being shut down. We have parliamentarians and senators who are from Manu Division. A mayor was killed there. Another mayor has taken a place in the same party. Why did all mayors not deny that? Because this party killed our brother. We deny the party. By the time you are shifting from what you think you don't like, there's another of your community who is hungry for that thing. There is a divide and rule system in the country. So when he says that an Anglophone might not take power, I want to ask him that, does it think that he's the only Anglophone that thinks that way? There are many Anglophones that think like him, that can equally go to that and change things. But listen to me. When the president calls for a national fast, people will fast because of a position. If you call it, nobody will fast. Based on where? Position counts when it comes to leadership. The influence to willpower has a lot of effect on people when you are in office. I can tell you that people have effect changes in many countries because of their position in power. So Nancy Pelosi right now is a threat to Trump because why? In the college in America, the Democrats stand the majority. Because of where she is sitting, she has influence over Trump. Let us be very, very, very concerned with the fact that until you occupy some certain places, you cannot give a change. If I become president, I can convince all the generals in this country to send out strangers. But you cannot convince generals in this country to send out strangers. That was what Idi Amin Dada did. He said, all the Asians that came here to construct railways brought by the British that have come to destroy the Uganda economy, I give you 3 months, 90 days, clear out of this place. They left because he was in power. Go and stand in the street and hold megaphone and shout, they will hear you. Nobody will hear you because you have no position. That's why I told you that Kamto does not stand in any position to cause an uprising. MRC people can be angry with me because why? Kamto lost his potency when he did not have place in the offices of parliamentary, the legislative, and municipal councillors. Why? If I thought he had parliamentarians, he would have called his constituencies, take your bosses and let us assemble in Douala. Those constituencies can gather at least 5,000 persons or 10,000 persons. Who is he calling? When he called for election, Mamadu Mota went to the street, they arrested him. He went to the prison and came out. Mamadu Mota is still there. Let us be very technical in how we handle things as far as politics goes in this country.
Okay. Fire Elvis Tayo, please.
You know I'm laughing.
No.
We have to laugh because I pinch him.
Let me ask my question to you. You say until certain parameters are fixed,
yes,
before an Anglophone can cause an effect. Those parameters have not been fixed. Francophones are leading.
Leading.
What stops an Anglophone from also leading under these parameters?
Yes. Different question now.
Mr. Leo, let me just answer. If any Anglophone, listen to me now, is dreaming that you can enter Etudi, it's a dream.
Why now?
Why do I say so? No, excuse me.
We
It's
should,
my point of view.
we should not be pessimistic.
Why do I say so? I have a point of what I'm saying. If you move and you hear a president in front of Ibrahim more, tell that we have been trying to assimilate them, it tells you that the policy of assimilation is on the way. One, we must be able to know that. I'm surprised we are looking as if we are coming from China or a different country.
No, not China.
Now, from the way things operate, Prince Joel has said clearly and reminded people the Prime Minister occupies the fifth position.
Clear.
People have mentioned here for 37 years since independence we are talking about. We are here blowing grammar because we are animating the public. But what is the reality on the ground? Anglophones might clamor to become president. Do they have what it takes with the present quagmire in Yaoundé? No. I'm sorry to say that. No. Does it take? Do you have what it takes to go to the street and force yourself I2D? You don't have. You don't have as per se. What does it mean? It means that it boils down to what Mr. Andre is saying.
No, he's the one that says
For you to become the next president in Cameroon, which we are not refusing, it takes France to decide. Maintenant, on accept an Anglophone. If the colonial power does not accept, and if they are accepting on condition c'est que tu fais comme ça, tu fais comme ça. Now, Apostle Abel said something clearly. You could behave like a sheep in wolf clothing. In which system will you behave? The moment they start seeing your octopus shooting in a different direction, not favorable. Either they indict you and say you have embezzled because you run state budget, and the mechanisms are put in place, or a coup d'etat is made to unseat you. I'm talking about peculiarities of French-speaking African countries. This analysis we're talking about. I'm talking about peculiarities. Bagbo saw in that he had. Bagbo is a history lecturer, a university lecturer who understands a Pan-Africanist. He understood the system but took it for granted. And before he knew it, even his own army general that he trusted deserted him because he got instruction from France to desert him before they came to pick him up like chicken that is being picked by wolves. So I am by hawk. I'm surprised that these are the bitter realities we must be able to face. Now, as I said earlier, all of us will wish Anglophones to be whatever wish is here. My worry here, analyzing is, do we have what it takes with indications we have on the ground? I'm not talking about intelligence. If for intelligence, Anglophones are very intelligent. That one is for sure. Wherever, like what Prince Joel said clearly, when there are issues where are leaking in the governmental department, they bring Anglophones to rescue. After rescue, what happens? Either you are indicted and sent to jail, or you are removed and sent to be warming coal. Anglophones know what I'm talking about. We should not sit on platform and be blowing grammar up and down. My problem is picking the realities. The realities are on the ground.
Yeah, but this context, the context you are explaining now is.
I will answer what you asked me. Because what I was saying was not what I was answering now. You asked me a different question. I'm answering that context. In the present context, that I was analyzing.
I've asked you that the context that you are explaining now is what you have just said.
Good.
It's a Francophone that is leading. What stops an Anglophone from also taking the policy position to be making policies in Cameroon?
Mr. Leo,
yes, that is my question.
I'm answering again. Can I answer?
Yes.
My problem here is not what stops an Anglophone. My question again is, does an Anglophone has what it takes to vie for that and get to it? That's my problem. Does he have what it takes to vie into it? Mr. Leo, I am coming.
Are you saying that Frundi did not win election?
I am coming. If Frundi won election, did he get there?
Okay.
No. It means that the system put in place do not warrant him to get to it. If not, he would have been there. So that's why he could only cry out, but could not get the. My problem is
if you say Anglophones do not have what it takes to get to power, are you saying only Kamto has that power?
We're talking about Anglophone, we're talking about Kamto. We're mixing two things here.
No,
if you want me to begin Kamto's chapter, you tell me. Because there is a cacophony here. I see Apostle Abambe, whatever. People who are in the party, no decision they take. They wear the shoes. You can hear stated clearly. You cannot be out of a vehicle and you're controlling the direction of the vehicle. Exactly. Apostle Abambe contradicting himself. You cannot be out of MRC and you are judging the MRC.
Are you asking my question now, or you are talking about Apostle? Okay, no. Okay, it's okay.
Kamto is not the issue here.
It's okay.
Look for a day of Kamto and call me, I'll come. What about Anglophones? I think that's what we're talking about here.
We discussed Kamto here.
And it was yesterday, and you're bringing it here again.
It's your national president, and he wants.
It's my president, but
he wants to take over.
Topic we're talking here.
No,
Always when we talk about
he
capital,
says Anglophones do not have what it takes to get to the presidency. Do you buy that?
He himself, I just feel that my friend Tayofa Elvis, even the viewers have noticed his shift of position, but I understand maybe he's speaking from
one person is
the aspect. Okay, no, it's just the person who had
just
aspect.
just
go ahead.
Yeah.
Because you're misinterpreting because he's moving to
They are not
right to give their opinions. So leave the viewers.
Mr. Leo, I want to say that the Englishman has all the intellectual aspect to it. The Englishman has everything to see it. But now, I think that when Mr. Theo is talking about Anglophones not having what it takes, I think he's looking at the electoral process. That's what he's talking about. Which I had said earlier on, that this regime, the CPDM regime, you don't win this regime through the ballot box. But we are saying that a constitution could make it possible.
Of course.
Okay? A constitution could make it possible. And another aspect is the fact that because if the constitution makes it possible, that's the first.
But another question I may ask is, who says that an Anglophone from within the CPDM cannot be president?
Mr. Leo, this is what we are saying. I am saying that I don't want to know who is president, whether from which political party. My bone of contention this evening is let him be of English expression, irrespective of where he's coming from. Mr. Leo, I want to tell you very well that Miles Moreau once said that the highest thief, if you talk like Professor was saying, if you prepare him psychologically, he may become the best man of God. That is why Saul, who wrote so many chapters in the Bible, was a criminal. He used to persecute Christians, and God changed him on his way to Damascus and said, I'm calling you Paul. I don't want to look at whether infinite it is the person that so many persons will not like now, who is of English expression, but let an Englishman be there. Because he's going to take away this myth, Mr. Leo. One of the reasons that the Africans started fighting for independence after the Second World War was the fact that a majority of our English of the Africans who went to support the white man in fighting, they discovered that the white man used to fear so much, used to respect so much, had also could die like the blacks. So now, the first aspect is, Mr. Leo, when my brother Tayon speaks like this, Mr. Andre, I have the impression we go to Yaoundé every day. Look at the way you get to Yaoundé and one man tells you, vous les Bamendala, vous réfléchissez à gauche. You see, there is this stigmatization on the Englishman. It's as if the Englishman's position has been relegated to the bottom. But if the Englishman, irrespective of how, that's what I'm saying, Mr. Leo, I don't want to know the Chief Dr. Joseph Jongute is with the CPDM. We have so many of them with the CPDM. Let them come. If there is something, I said it earlier on, that if you put it in 2025 presidential elections, that the person who will be the flag bearer for the CPDM is of English expression. I said it and I'm saying it again. Go even to Nigeria and tell one mama who ran from Akwaya that your brother is the one who will be president if you come and vote. She comes back the next day. But since there is this calculated aspect that an Englishman cannot do anything, which I find my brothers supporting, and they feel that it's because of the regime, Biya himself, it is true they prepared him. But let us say there is nothing that is impossible. We are going to keep pressing. When the Anglophone crisis started, I'm not saying that like anything. When it started, those who said that it's going to take 2 weeks to end, we are 4 years inside. Let an Englishman go to Yaoundé. Once he sits there, like Reverend said, we are going to have the generals, divisional officers, governors, because there is no school that trains governors. There is no school that trains ministers. It means that the head of state can just decide out of his magnanimity and say, Kun Leonard is Minister of Communication. It's clear. But when somebody to sit there that identifies with us, that is why we discover that it is true that giving the Englishman certain positions. But if you look at what is ongoing, Mr. Leo, is the present regime sells the goat and holds the rope. That is why we discover that those who hold good positions cannot go very far because you have limitations at one time when you want to go too far. Yaoundé keeps reminding you to toe the line. But if an Englishman to sit there, even if they are reminding, we will keep saying that, okay, we have been killed by our own. Forget not that when there's a Ghanaian writer, I think Aikwe Ama said the beautiful ones are not yet born. The ideology from that story is simple. He was looking at Ghana before independence and Ghana in the hands of a Ghanaian president. When he looked at Africa or he looked at Ghana in the hands of their own brother and said, how? We were thinking that the white man used to kill us. How come it is our own brother who is? He now said, okay, the beautiful ones is not, they are not yet born. And he took it in a way to look at a bird that says the bird doesn't feed from, doesn't consume excrement, but feeds on maggots. Whereas maggots depend on excrement to live. I'm saying that, Mr. Leo, irrespective of what or how. We don't want to know how.
Okay.
Let an Englishman sit at the Unity Palace.
There are lots of messages today. Let me take the remaining minutes to read some of the messages. Mr. Leo, in fact, the program today was wonderful. Thank you very much. This one says, good evening, please read. Good evening, all. Apostle Ambe, I like the way you talk from Solomon Limbe. Mr. Elvis, so no Anglophone man is educated to be president in Cameroon. Okay. This one says, Mr. Leo, it sounds comic what Mr. Elvis is saying, but it's a fact. If you are an Anglophone and find yourself as president in the Etude Palace, my brother, wake up, you are dreaming. That is an impossible dream in the dreamland. Ask Pani. He was working like any other civil servant, not a presidential candidate. Zhang is writing from Limbe. Good evening, Mr. We have 3 Cameroon: French Cameroon, English Cameroon, and CPDM. French and English Cameroon have never ruled, but CPDM made up of 3 to 5 members from the 240 tribes. Okay, this one says, good evening, Mr. Liu and dear panelists. Cameroon needs education system that will serve us. Dennis, stop calling, please. This one says, hello, good evening to you in the studio. I love this program. It's so interesting. Michael from Kongsamba. Mr. Liu, please, at times did the program really state and when? I just have the channel, still Michael from Kongsamba. The program comes up every 7 p.m. every day, from Monday to Friday. Hey, Mr. Liu, my warm greetings to all the panelists in the House. The long stay of the president in power is not welcoming by the world at large. Our country, being a developing one, needs frequent change of power in order to foster its development. I'm talking here in the sense that when a president is chosen from one region, several developments usually follows that region. Why not work in this trend by regularly changing power so that we can experience equal development all over the national territory? Amkum Amselm, writing from Way. Good evening, dear panelists. Please, Mr. Leo, tell Mr. Elvis that I want to see him and his family with his president come to march under the Cameroon that day. It's Southern Cameroonians' time to become the president. Eno Clovis is writing from Kumba. Okay, Clovis, good evening to you. Messages. Stop the calls, please. There is only one thing to do. Allow Southern Cameroonians control their affairs. We wanted, okay. Divine is writing from Muya. Hello, just want to say more love to the program from Virginia Beach, the United States of America. Ivor, good evening to you, Ivor. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the crew. I love your program. More grace to Mr. Ambe. Sudika is writing from Chang. Good evening, gentlemen. Such brilliance from the panelists doesn't require a Matango atmosphere. Congrats, though. Thank you very much. Mr. Liu, evening, better a Francophone than people like, okay, some Anglophones. Ashu is writing from Muya. Good evening to you, Ashu. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm happy of your program tonight. I like the kangaroo man because he's always talking facts. If the Northwest and Southwest is not solved now, it cannot solve even for 10 years because an Anglophone man cannot support those who are already. Okay, Remy is writing from Ndu. Good evening to you, Remy. Mr. Leo, keep on with the crew, but Mr. Elvis has no problem, and the only thing is the viewers are not understanding him. Fire on Mr. Elvis. Anya is writing from Boya. Good evening. It's Didier from Tico. I'm coming back, still listening. Okay. Good evening, senior people. I love your program, but for me, I think just by changing the constitution reform, it will help, because it is very necessary to change Cameroon. For example, the clause which is the president change to his favor, we need rotating in the presidency. Okay. Not too clear. Stop calling, please. Good evening, everyone in the studio. I really enjoy the discussions going on. Wish to appreciate you all. Keep up. I don't understand why Mr. Farr reactions are different today. He is always dynamic. Sir Martin, writing from Mutengene. Okay, they say change is constant. Politics in Cameroon is something that we don't even know how to describe, so I prefer we forget this president thing and focus on our investment and allow them to battle themselves while we observe. Maximilien Kolbe is writing from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Only this Anglophone that are on the platform today can change this Cameroon if the power is given to them. Julius Peter is writing from Bonaberry. Oops, the many calls are disturbing. I cannot even read the messages. So we have to end at this juncture. Andrew, we are grateful you were part of the show this evening.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Leo. But before I finally give the floor over to my next panelist, Mr. Prophet Apostle Ambi, you said you said you advised the youth to even steal votes. if we would take the youth to stay in politics, they should still vote for the youth. You said you spoke as a clergyman. And as a clergyman, the Bible also says that when you enter into a house of a strong man, you bind the strong man. I think that the philosophy of an Anglophone being a president is just like a mad dog that is being let loose, moving around the street. At the end of the day, still has a master that controls that dog. You see, so for me, I think that I will appreciate all the panelists who have also given their contributions. I think everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I hope that our views have been able to count. We are not saying that an Anglophone cannot rule the nation, but we are only saying on what context, on what platform, because the existing platform is a one which denies its people. So that is why we talk about reform and change of constitution and reviewing the policies of 1960 and 61. That will bring Cameroon to a path where it can charter its own destiny. Thank you very much for taking part in this program.
Okay. Hi, Leo. You're doing great. Thank you. Evening, Mr. Leo. If the government don't want to separate with the Anglophone, then the only option they have is to appoint Anglophones in all head offices in this country. I'm Frankie Motu, writing from Kumba. Thank you for coming, Apostle Ambe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Leo. It's always a privilege and a joy to be here. I want to make people understand that the people who are in power, their environments enjoy very well. And you have to start developing your nation before you start thinking of Africa. In Kenya, we have three major tribes. We have the Gikuyus, we have the Kalenjins, and we have the Luos. The tribes that are properly developed in the land of Kenya are the Gikuyus and the Kalenjins, because the Luos are the minority. Aramoa came from the Kalenjins. Kenyatta came from the Gikuyus. As you go, those areas are properly developed. So anybody on top black plum, on another grammar now, my brother chop black plum for them. Anglophone, when I climb the 1C flyovers in Southwest too, as we have seen it in other towns.
Greetings, Mr. Leo. I love the program. You can only score a goal when you are a player. Let's give Anglophones a chance. Peter Che, writing. Good evening to you, Peter Che. We want to say thank you to you, Elvis Fatayong, for coming.
Oh, thanks very much. Just like one panelist said that many people are not understanding. Probably, maybe, I don't know how it was sounding, that people are not getting. But as I said, all of us always want all of us clamor that Anglophone should be. But under the present context, it will never happen. No, I don't want to talk whatever because the traces are clear. Talking about assimilation, talk about Anglophone, the fourth part, the fifth position, and all the like. That's why I don't want to dream things that will never happen. So for now, if it comes, it will be a miracle because the man of God is here praying for us. Yes. But if you say that under normal condition, it will never happen because they will not sit and allow you. Because the way a person is citing governors and all the like, Even if Anglophone is listening to her, si on donne la face à l'égance par le gouvernement, ça veut dire nous sommes mourés. They will not give it to you unless you take it by any other means. To still and give to you, Anglophone, mbano. Let's forget about that dream.
Okay, thank you to you two for coming.
It's always a privilege being there, Mr. Leo. Like I said, it's always a privilege having refined minds like this one and sharing with those who watch Prime Hour. That is one of the programs that is leading now, especially in the Northwest and Southwest regions. There is one thing Miles Moron said. He said that a group of lions led by a sheep will be defeated by a group of sheep led by a lion. Let an Englishman lead us, irrespective of where it takes us to. Let an Englishman sit in Yaoundé, irrespective of what it takes. We want to believe we'll be there someday.
Thank you to you, Paul. Thank you to you, to Desmond, Eli, and the production team. Equally to you, to Tabi, Tambe Bryant, who is supervising our work out here. We want to say stay blessed. Bye-bye.